Highly anticipated is an overused term for new vehicles, but the descriptor certainly applies to General Motors' new all-electric car, the Chevrolet Bolt EV. Except we haven't really been waiting for it all that long. The anticipation has lasted 20 months so far, measuring from when Chevrolet first showed a concept version of the car at the 2015 Detroit Auto Show. Since then, GM debuted the production Bolt EV at the beginning of 2016, divulged most of the car's technical details, and, last month, let us drive a prototype Bolt just outside the borders of the company's Michigan proving grounds. Now, a few months before the Bolt is scheduled to go on sale, we've had the chance to drive a Bolt EV in real-world conditions in California to test its driving range. The anticipation surrounding the Bolt EV has a lot to do with two claims that GM made when it first showed the concept in January 2015, a starting price of around $30,000 and a driving range of 200+ miles on a single charge. Confirming that first number will have to wait a bit longer, until Chevy finalizes the price, but it's worth noting the caveat that the $30,000 estimate is the price after tax credits, including the federal $7,500 incentive. But the second, and perhaps more important, number, the range, now has been officially certified by the EPA at 238 miles. Oh, the places you'll go. Eager to prove that the Bolt really will go that far on a single charge, Chevrolet planned out a route from Monterey to Santa Barbara, California, that spanned approximately 240 miles on coastal highways. The route included elevation changes and higher cruising speeds, conditions that do not typically favor electric cars, which do best in stop-and-go situations that make the most of their regenerative braking capability. Chevrolet claims that about 40 miles of the EPA-rated range is attributable to adding energy back into the battery while the car is underway. During our day with the Bolt, we did not drive in an overly aggressive manner, nor did we hypermile. Most of the time, we stayed out of the standard drive setting and kept the car in its slow mode, which increases the amount of regenerative slowdown you get when you lift off the go pedal. More on that later. Temperatures were in the 60s for the first half of our route, so we left the fan blowing without activating air conditioning. As we drove farther south, the temperature rose, and we set the automatic climate control to 72 degrees. The results speak for themselves. After driving 238 miles, we arrived at our destination with the range estimator displaying 34 miles remaining. No complicated math was required to see that the Bolt clearly can far outperform Chevy's initial estimate. Other drivers on the same route achieved varying numbers. One vehicle finished with a range indicator simply flashing low rather than displaying a number, but each of the 4 Bolts on our drive completed the tall task. We'll go ahead and brag that we won, with our car showing the most remaining range at the end of the route, despite one wrong turn that added a couple of miles to our journey. Screens galore, helping to keep track of available range is a useful gauge prominently displayed on the 8.0-inch digital instrument cluster screen. The number in the middle represents the car's best estimate for how much farther it can travel before running out of juice. This number is flanked by maximum and minimum range estimates. As you drive more efficiently, a green bar rises from the middle number to indicate that you're trending upward toward the maximum range. Use more energy, and a yellow bar stretches down toward the minimum range number to indicate a downward trend. The spread between the maximum and minimum numbers narrows as you deplete the battery further. For example, our fully charged car displayed a main range estimate of 225 miles at the start, with a maximum of 265 and a minimum of 184 miles. When we finished the route, the main number read 34 miles, with a maximum of 40 and a minimum of 27. Range anxiety in the Bolt happens on a different scale than in most other EVs. With less than a fifth of battery capacity remaining, the range display can sometimes turn a somewhat alarming shade of orange, the sort of color that in another EV might prompt you to find a charging station post-haste. But in the Bolt, you're likely to have 30 or 40 miles of range remaining when this happens, giving you plenty of time to run a few errands before needing to find your next charge point. Speaking of which, GM does not quote total charging times, instead saying that a 240-volt charger will add 50 miles of range in less than 2 hours and that a 480-volt quick charger can add around 90 miles of range in 30 minutes. However, the Bolt's 7.2 kilowatts onboard charger, the Tesla Model S with the optional 20 kilowatts capability, can charge almost 3 times faster, means it will take roughly 8.5 hours to fully recharge its 60 kilowatt-hours battery. A portable 120-volt charge cord is included, but that option won't replenish the battery pack with any urgency. The central 10.2-inch infotainment screen offers additional metrics useful for driving and charging. One screen shows how much energy is being used by certain vehicle functions, including driving and accessories, climate settings, and battery conditioning, which only becomes an issue only in extreme temperatures, when the car has to use energy to regulate the temperature of the battery pack. Another screen is a sort of driving scorecard that rates things like driving technique, climate control usage, and terrain. All information on the 2 screens, both of which are engineered by South Korean electronics giant LG and designed by GM, is clearly and cleanly presented, and the responsive central touch screen also includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capabilities. Chevy promises more details are forthcoming about certain built-in navigation capabilities, connectivity features, and optional active safety systems. Making sacrifices. While the Bolt's technology palette is attractive, we were a bit disappointed with its interior quality, which is more befitting a $20,000 car than a $30,000 one. Chief Engineer Josh Tavel admitted that priorities for the Bolt dictated more of a focus on innovative tech than it did on soft touch dashboard materials and the like. This is an understandable compromise, even with an abundance of hard plastic trim, some of which is poorly grained. Clear forward visibility, a spacious back seat with plenty of leg and headroom for 2 adults, and a deep rear cargo will help offset the interior's subjective shortcomings. As we found during our initial prototype drive, the engineering team was not willing to compromise on the Bolt's dynamics. While developing the ride and handling of the Bolt, Tavel, an avid SCCA racer, says that he discouraged benchmarking other electric cars such as the Nissan Leaf and the BMW i3. Instead, he set loftier targets by seeking out great-handling cars for around $30,000, which he doesn't name regardless of propulsion system. The effort paid off. The Bolt isn't just good to drive for an electric car, it's good to drive, period. Sure, its cornering limits are relatively low because of its slow-rolling resistance Michelin tires, but the ride is satisfyingly firm without being harsh, and body motions are well controlled. Steering is heavily weighted, but not overly so, and was good on center feel. We would tell you all about the action and feel of the Bolt's brake pedal, which uses regenerative braking for the first bit of its travel before activating the hydraulic brakes, but we hardly touched it during our drive. Several different configurations for the regenerative braking system enable single pedal driving in nearly every scenario. The standard drive setting enables the lowest amount of regen, while pulling the shifter back for low ratchets up the amount of regenerative braking when you lift off the accelerator pedal, to the point where it can bring the car to a complete stop. In both drive and low, a helpful paddle behind the left steering wheel spoke provides on-demand regenerative capability for when you want even more aggressive deceleration. Introduced on the current Chevy Volt, this paddle is a bit more useful in a Bolt F because it is able to bring the car to a complete stop. The car also will hold itself at a stop if you slow to 0 miles per hour in low, while drive mode allows low speed creep similar to the familiar behavior of a car with a gasoline engine and a conventional automatic transmission. The gradual and progressive feel of the right pedal, no gas pedal or throttle here, allows for precise adjustments that make it easy to get used to this single pedal driving style. A sport mode button on the dashboard increases pedal sensitivity for the perception of better responsiveness. but it actually doesn't provide any additional thrust, which isn't exactly insane or ludicrous. Tavel said that the main reason the sport mode is included on the Bolt F was because of positive feedback received from Volt owners about a similar mode in their cars. Quick, not fast. If the Bolt can indeed get from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6.5 seconds, as Tavel claims, it will match our best result for the BMW i3, the quickest entry among today's current crop of relatively accessible Fs, which excludes expensive machines like Tesla's Model S and Model X. The Bolt's torquey electric motor, 200 horsepower, 266 lb-ft of torque, can easily chirp the tires from a stop and provides plenty of instantaneous power for slicing through city traffic or passing on the highway. Top speed is 90 miles per hour, a relatively pointless measurement for most F drivers. Even so, our inner hooligan wonders how far the Bolt could go while maintaining that velocity. The waiting game for the Bolt F will continue for a bit longer, as GM won't divulge an exact date when the car will reach dealerships. Although we'd previously heard that deliveries would begin before the end of 2016, the company now says only that production will start by the end of this year. We surmise that it now intends to start shipping cars to customers sometime in early 2017. The Bolt will be assembled at GM's Orion Township, Michigan, plant, with several parts, including the electric motor and battery pack, manufactured by LG in South Korea. The Bolt F is said to be available in all 50 states, but not all of Chevrolet's approximately 3,300 dealerships nationwide will choose to apply for Chevy's new electrification certification that will allow a given dealership to sell the Malibu Hybrid, the Volt, and the Bolt. Around 2,200 dealerships are currently certified to sell the Volt. Chevrolet hasn't yet detailed any sort of pre-ordering process for the Bolt, but we won't be surprised if high initial demand creates a waiting list. The Bolt F is worth the wait for a few extra months. It's a well-rounded, eminently usable, forward-thinking small hatchback that's satisfying to drive, and perhaps the most compelling argument yet for the staying power of the mass-market electric car. Peel back the Chevy Bolt's androgynous design, and you'll find a car with more than its share of electrons. In case you haven't heard, this is a pure battery-powered electric with no combustion to drive you home when the juice runs low. But don't fret, thanks to its ample electron supply, the Bolt offers a claimed 200-mile range. There's also plenty of space for passengers and their stuff, and the Bolt's attitude is highly congenial. We discovered that last item on a 50-mile drive with the Bolt's chief engineer, Josh Tavel, riding shotgun, absorbing our barrage of questions. Jab the accelerator, and the Bolt makes good on its name. Chevy says it reaches 60 miles per hour in less than 7 seconds, which is quicker than every other pure electric we've tested except the BMW i3 and the Tesla Roadster, Model S, and Model X. That said, the seats of our pants suggest that 7 seconds may be conservative. Right pedal down, this front drive hatchback tears out of the hole and scratches for traction in bends. With 266 lb-ft of torque available at just above 0 RPM and multiplied 7 times by reduction gears, the Bolt has no difficulty going with the flow. In its roughly VW Beetle size, the Bolt offers ample room for passengers and stuff, as well as enough battery capacity for a claimed 200-mile range. According to Tavel, the 200 horsepower motor's output had to be trimmed at times to diminish torque steer. While passing a tractor-trailer outside GM's Milford Proving Grounds, we feel exactly what he's talking about. Those who summon all the loose electrons for acceleration will need more than a couple of pinkies on the steering wheel. Tavel is still tweaking various calibrations since Bolt production and sales are months out, but he's clearly proud of what his development team has achieved. This 37-year-old engineer began amateur competition at age 5 on BMX bikes and continued with minimal interruption to his current SCCA Spec Racer Ford campaign. A deeply ingrained racing mentality may be why Tavel hated to sacrifice any torque to diminish tugs on the steering wheel, and why the Bolt's every motion is well managed when you toss it around. Without imposing harshness, the ride is firm to help keep body roll in check during full boogie maneuvers. The low rolling resistance Michelin Energy Saver's 21550R17 tires absorb patched pavement without trick oil and break away gently when tasked with a surprise lane change. Loaded with 3,600 pounds of curb weight, 56% carried by the front tires, according to Tavel, these radials have plenty of work to do, but they feel up to the task. The electrically assisted rack and pinion steering is slack-free on center, quick to respond, and nicely weighted. Walking that fine line between comfort for civilian drivers and engaging dynamics for enthusiasts is no easy feat, but Tavel deserves credit for balancing the two conflicting mentalities. Of course, he had plenty of help making sure that GM's latest electric car project, following the EV1 in the 1990s, 2 generations of Volts, and the Spark F, is a success. After collaborating since 2007 on OnStar communications modules, GM signed an agreement 5 years ago with Korea's LG Group to design and engineer electric vehicles. Nearly as large as GM in terms of annual revenue, the Life's Good brand is a world leader in chemicals, telecommunications, and electronics, so its expertise nicely complements GM's metal-bending and car marketing skills. The Bolt is truly global in scope, with GM Korea responsible for basic car design and US engineers handling development. Drawing on its electric motor and control knowledge, GM engineers designed the propulsion system. LG builds the electric motor, power inverter module, onboard battery charger, instrument cluster, infotainment system, and the control modules that distribute electrical power, energize the accessories, and communicate with charging stations. LG also manufactures the lithium-ion battery cells in Korea and assembles them into a pack. When GM's president announced that the battery pack accounts for 23% of the Bolt's estimated $37,500 base price before federal tax credits, there was universal head-scratching over any potential return on investment. Our guess, the value of zero-emissions credits to be reaped will exceed the inevitable per unit losses. The Bolt's 200-horsepower permanent magnet AC motor has a hollow center so that one half shaft can run straight from the differential to the right front wheel. The 960-pound heated and cooled 60 kWh battery pack holds 288 cells in a 10 cubic foot box that doubles as the Bolt's floor. The 3.9 by 15.3 by 0.5-inch prismatic cells are packed inside 10 modules, 4 of which are stacked too high under the rear seat. 5 support crossmembers, cooling plates, and the pack's steel bottom help avoid puncture by road debris. In all, the Bolt's pack carries more than 3 times the energy provided in the Volt's battery but without ruining the interior space. According to Tavel, at least 40 miles of the Bolt's 200-mile EPA-rated range, which we suspect is also a conservative claim, comes from regeneration, which necessitates recovering the maximum amount of energy during deceleration. Toward that end, there are 4 regenerative modes. The D-shifter lever position stands for both drive and default. Those like us who prefer single-pedal electric car driving will move the lever back a notch to the L position, significantly increasing regeneration down to 0 miles per hour behind the steering wheel's left spoke. There's a paddle to goose regen another notch higher in both the D and L positions. During our drive, the L position felt just right and comparable to the aggressive regen that Tesla provides. While the first bit of brake pedal travel provides only regen, there's no weird step up in effort when the 4 calipers swing into action as more pressure is applied. During the conceptual stages of the Bolt's design and development, GM asked potential customers what sort of vehicle they'd prefer. The near-universal vote was crossover, which set the tone for this electric's general configuration. Frankly, we see little crossover vehicle in the Bolt's genes. All-wheel drive won't be offered at launch, and that's unlikely to change given the size and location of the battery pack. The Bolt's length and width dimensions fit neatly between the subcompact Chevy Sparks and the compact Sonics. Adding 3 to 4 additional inches of height more than makes up for the battery pack in the floor. The tall ceiling and upright seating yield 94 cubic feet of passenger space and 17 cubic feet of cargo room behind the split folding back seat. Both those figures top the Sonics by a few cubic feet. Yardsticks aside, the Bolt feels roomy, able to swallow everything short of 4-bit building materials. Entering the front seat is a horizontal slide, with little up or down translation necessary. The rear bench is chair-high with ample footroom, thanks to the flat floor, and minimal center console intrusion. While there are 3 belts in back, there's only enough width to carry that many kids. 2 adults fit nicely with the center armrest deployed. Front bucket backrests are a thin design to maximize knee-room, and there's a flat panel in the trunk with 3-way versatility. It can be removed, mounted at an angle to segment cargo items, or placed flat over the subfloor cavity. Tavel pleaded no comment when we asked the purpose of the spare tire shaped well at the bottom of the cargo compartment. In the event of a flat, tire sealant and reinflation are your only salvation. The obvious conclusion is that this new BEV2 platform has obligations beyond this car. Electric innards, the Bolt S chassis and powertrain blend GM design with LG manufacturing. Packing its batteries under the floor yields seating for 5. The Bolt's bright-eyed dash has a 10.2-inch reconfigurable touchscreen in the center and an 8-inch electronic cluster behind the wheel providing essential vehicle information. Even while the car is in drive, the inside mirror can display a wide-angle camera feed to improve rear visibility. An OnStar 4G LTE Wi-Fi connection provides access to the world at large. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone connectivity, automatic climate control, and a nav system specifically tailored to EV needs are all in the car we are driving, but Chevrolet hasn't announced exactly what gear and trim will be standard and what will cost extra. It's also too soon to judge fit, finish, and upholstery quality because those parts are still subject to fine-tuning. For any electric car, your getting home anxiety is inversely proportional to both maximum range and battery charging convenience. Plugging into a 120-volt outlet is convenient but ineffective for replenishing range within an average human's lifespan. The better choice is the optional 240-volt AC charger fed by a 32-amp circuit at home or work, which, according to Chevy, replenishes 25 miles of range per hour and tops off a fully depleted pack in 9 hours. Another option is C-Combo DC quick charging that adds 90 miles of range in a half hour. Compare that with the Tesla Supercharger, also DC, which had 210 miles of range in only 40 minutes. At the beginning of this year, there were 253 supercharger locations sprinkled across the continental US versus 387 C-Quick Charge locations concentrated on the coasts. While that sounds like a win for Chevrolet, it's difficult to predict who will have the infrastructural upper hand when that other affordable electric, the Tesla Model 3, arrives in 18 or 24 or 36 or so months. According to Tavel, Bolt manufacturing and deliveries are scheduled to begin before the end of this year, giving Chevy a solid start over the Model 3. Will the Bolt give Elon Musk night sweats? Or will the nearly 400,000 customers who have plunked down deposits for the next Tesla prove the wiser? We'll be back when that answer is in hand.